On today's episode of Locked On Angels, the Reds busted out the brooms against our Halos this weekend. It was a really difficult weekend. So is there anything to learn? What will help the Halos move forward? How can they get better? Let's talk about that. This is going to be the type of year where we take a lot of headache medicine, right? It's time to get locked on with Mike and John, and this is Locked On Angels.
You are Locked On Angels, your daily Los Angeles Angels podcast. Part of the Locked On Podcast Network, your team every day.
Thanks for making Locked On Angels your first listen of the day. You can find us anywhere you get your podcasts, including Apple Podcasts, Spotify, and SiriusXM by searching Locked On Angels. And if you'd like to give back to the Super Halo Bros for all the Super Halo content, here's some things that you can do. Leave us a rate and a review on Apple Podcasts. If you're watching on YouTube, hit that thumbs up button. And if you're not subscribed already, please subscribe and become a Locked On everydayer. And whether you're watching or listening, come over to YouTube, leave a comment. It's one of the best ways to get in touch with us and be a part of the conversation. And today's episode is brought to you by our friends at eBay Motors. From brakes to exhaust kits and beyond, eBay Motors has over 122 million parts to keep your ride or die alive. And with all the parts you need at the price that you want, it's easy to bring home that big W. Keep your car, your truck, or your SUV alive at ebaymotors.com. Welcome to Locked On Angels, everybody. My name is Mike Frisch, one half of the Super Halo Bros and co-host of Locked On Angels. You might look around and notice that John is still not here. He's still not feeling great. I think he's a wimp, but he's still not feeling great. And I can confirm, we talked before the show, he's not looking great either. So he's hoping to be back tomorrow. So Johnny, we miss you. We miss your sarcasm. We miss your in-the-face conversations. And the buckle up nerd moment. So we can't wait until you come back to Locked On Angels. He has left it up to me to try to be a healing salve for you after this weekend against the Cincinnati Reds. It was a tough weekend. But before we get there, this is our third season at Locked On Angels. So honored to be here and honored to have you here with us. We're here 5 days a week, and we're recapping games and talking about all the things you want to talk about and helping you to become a smarter Angel fan, maybe a smart aleck after this weekend, right? Today's show is going to be about the weekend against the Reds. And my question really is, how come the Angels didn't listen to Locked On Angels on Friday? Because, to be honest with you, I shared some great keys to the weekend. I shared some great wisdom. And if they would have listened to me, they would have won, right? And you guys shared some great comments. Come on, Angels. This is where you need to be every single day. Get some help, right? So let's recap what happened this weekend. Let me take you to Friday's game. And the summary of this game was very simple. This was a game of chances, and the Angels didn't take advantage of any of those chances offensively. On the pitching side, Tyler Anderson was solid in this game, but he was the unlucky loser. He pitched 7 innings, gave up 3 hits, 2 runs, 1 earned, 3 walks, 2 Ks, 95 pitches. This is the third of 4 starts for Tyler Anderson where he's gone 7 innings. This is a remarkable achievement for him based off of what we experienced last year. And again, he looks like the Dodgers Tyler Anderson. He looks like the Tyler Anderson from 2 years ago. And so that was great to see. Unfortunately, the offense just couldn't help him out, and the bullpen was no relief and help to Tyler Anderson in this game. So here's the play-by-play. Let me take you to Friday, bottom of the second. De La Cruz, who was just all over the place this weekend, a guy that doesn't walk too much, and the Angels decided to help him out and put him on the base path as often as possible. He singled in the bottom of the second. He's still second. He's still third. Then O'Hoppe throws the ball into left field on that throw to third and made it 1-0 Reds. We talked about how Mike Trout produced a Ricky Henderson run against the Tampa Bay Rays. Well, this was a De La Cruz run against the Angels from the Cincinnati Reds. They looked fantastic, and so they're up 1-0. The Angels had a chance in the top of the third. Joe Adell got an infield single. Then he steals second, and with 2 outs, Anthony Rendon grounds out in the hole at short, and the throw was high to first base, and Rendon was safe. But Adell didn't stop running. He was at second, went to third, and just rounded third, and he was thrown out at the plate. And the reason why this is such a big issue is because Mike Trout was coming up. You would have first and third, 2 outs with Mike Trout at the plate, who obviously is good and has been carrying this team. And so the question became, like, did did he get sent? Did EY send him, or was it Adell's idea? And based on the discussion that happened after this inning in the dugout, it looked like it was Adell's choice. And I know that a lot of fans who were watching this game said, well, that's what you do with 2 outs. You just keep running and try to score in case there's a mistake or an overthrow. I understand that, but Adell's got to be aware of the situation. And more importantly, I think that his third base coach has to help him out. Replay showed that EY didn't really give any sort of indication, but here's the reality. Joe Adell wouldn't have noticed that because Joe Adell's head was down. He was just hustling around the bases and wasn't paying attention to anything else. And so do you want a runner who is understanding like, hey, it's this going to be the 3rd out. I'm just going to round and I'm going to try to head home in case there's an overthrow. Yes. But you also need a runner that has his head up and is aware of what's happening, because if there is an overthrow and it was a throw off the bag that pulled the first baseman off the bag and Rendon was safe, then you want to maybe perhaps get into a rundown, or you want to see what that guy's going to do. Adell didn't even know the guy threw the ball home. He was just looking down and running. And I get it. I'm picking on him. And I've been picking on him the last few episodes. But it's this type of stuff that's just so irritating, because I'm not athletically baseball minded, but I'm aware of baseball and what you need to be aware of. And it just seems like Joe Adell isn't aware at the appropriate times and is not paying attention to the situations that are happening around him. So that was really frustrating. Took a scoring chance away from the Angels. They had another chance in the top of the 4th. Ward doubles with 1 out. Sano lines out to short. De La Cruz doubles off Ward. Now, here's why this is frustrating. Ward, when he hit the ball, he kind of just jogged out of the batter's box instead of really running hard. Could have been at 3rd. He should have been at 3rd. That ball was a triple, but he ended up at 2nd base, and it wouldn't have been a double play because he would have been at 3rd base and De La Cruz wouldn't have been able to get him out. But he was at 2nd, and when the ball was lined to short, Ward was off the bag. You freeze on a line drive, which is the right thing to do. But De La Cruz got it and immediately doubled him off 2nd base. Top of the 5th, Rengifo's 2nd at-bat of the game. He was behind in the count. He worked it to a full count. Then he singled up the middle. Then he steals 2nd base. And it was a good move because Adell was trying to redeem himself, and he did with a single that brought Rengifo home. And this was with 2 outs. So the game was tied at 1. And I put in my notes that I have a love-hate relationship with Joe Adell. So if I say something bad, I got to say something good, right? But this was all the Angel offense could produce. Top of the 6th, Rendon gets another infield single. He steals 2nd base, and then Sano bounces out for the final out, and another chance to knock in a run was washed away, was completely wiped away because the Angels offense can't come through. Bottom 6, Tyler Stevenson hits a mammoth home run with 2 outs. Reds lead 2-1. Top of the 7th, the Angels had another chance to try to score. Drury singles. Ohapi reaches on a fielder's choice. Drury's out at 2nd. Rengifo then doubles off of a changeup into left field, and that knocks out the Reds starter. And with runners at 2nd and 3rd, Joe Adell comes up and strikes out looking. Now, it was a good at bat. It was a really good at bat. The pitch was on the inside corner, but he strikes out looking. Then Neto comes up, and he strikes out looking. The pitch was on the outside corner. You got to swing the bat if we're going to score some runs. We got to swing the bat. And anything close, you got to protect. And the Angels just weren't in that mode at all on Friday. Top 8, Rendon leads off with a walk. Trout lines out to center, swinging on the first pitch after a walk. Drives me nuts. Ward flies out to deep right, then Sano flies out to left. It was the 3rd straight inning that the Angels had their leadoff hitter on and didn't score. Bottom of the 8th, everything kind of fell apart. Simber comes in, gives up 2 singles, a sac bunt for the first out, walks the next batter. Then with the bases loaded, Simber hits the next batter, made it 3-1. He goes out. Cisnero comes in. A pass ball makes it 4-1 Reds. Then De La Cruz hits an opposite field 3-run home run, made it 7-1 Reds, and that was your ball game. The Angels couldn't score any runs, and the bullpen was of no help in this game. Again, Tyler Anderson, 7 innings, 2 runs, so good. Bullpen, 3 innings, 5 runs. So terrible. And that set the tone for the weekend. The Angels were not going to produce much for the weekend. Their offense struggled, and so did their pitching. And we'll get into that in just a minute. But thanks for making Locked On Angels your first listen of the day. The Angels do play the Baltimore Orioles. That's for you, Johnny. The Baltimore Orioles, 6:38 Pacific time. We're finally at home. Unfortunately, it's against the Orioles. Detmer's Day, so save us, Reed Detmers. He did beat the O's in his first start of the year, so perhaps we can get a win to start the series off and stop this 4-game losing streak. That's what an ace does, right? An ace stops losing streaks, and I think that Detmers is our ace, not Sandoval. We'll talk about that in a minute. You can catch every pitch of the Angels' hometown broadcast with SiriusXM on the SXM app. Just search Angels. And coming up, what did Patrick Sandoval do on the mound on Saturday that got him into so much trouble? I'm going to share one stat with you, and it's a stat that you're not going to be surprised at. That's coming up on Locked On Angels. Locked On Angels is brought to you by our friends at eBay Motors. Passion and drive and patience. What brings home the winning trophy is always what keeps your car or truck and SUV alive. eBay Motors has everything you need to maintain your vehicle and level it up to peak performance, from superchargers to roof racks to exhaust kits, LED headlights, and so much more. Whether you're into speed or power or style, eBay Motors has got you covered. With over 122 million parts for your auto, you can always find exactly what you're looking for. And with the eBay Guarantee Fit, your part is guaranteed to fit your ride every single time, or your money back. Because with eBay Motors, you're burning rubber, not cash. And with all the parts that you need at the prices that you want, it's easy to turn your car into the MVP and bring home that win. Keep your car, truck, or SUV alive at ebaymotors.com. Eligible items only. Exclusions do apply. The eBay Guarantee Fit is only available to U.S. customers. And Locked On Angels is also brought to you by our friends at Monopoly Go. It's your favorite board game on your mobile phone, and maybe you dominated your family and your friends when you were a kid. Now you can dominate anybody around the world, including your family and friends, with this game on your phone. One of the most popular games. My friend Joey loves Monopoly Go and has downloaded it and is inviting everybody to play it. It's really distracting at work, by the way, which I love because it's a whole lot of fun to play. Monopoly Go lets you compete against your friends and family and work to get the most riches and the biggest empire. It's the Monopoly you love, but it's on your phone anytime with tons of new twists, including leaderboards to compare your progress with your friends, causing your friends to go bankrupt by smashing their landmarks with a wrecking ball. You can charge other players rent for iconic properties and play on countless dynamic Monopoly boards. And you can even work with your friends to crack open the community chest and in-game tournaments to get extra rewards and climb to the leaderboard. So get back out there, put your game face on, and download Monopoly Go, now free on the App Store and the Google Play Store. This is the Locked On Podcast Network, and this is Locked On Angels, where it's your team every day. And friends, after Locked On Angels, I want to invite you to make the switch to Locked On Sports Today, a free 24/7 sports streaming channel program just for you every day, bringing you the biggest stories in sports. Locked On Sports Today brings you can't-miss analysis, opinions, and news, streaming 24/7 on YouTube or the free Amazon Fire TV channels app, part of the Locked On Podcast Network, where it's your team every day. And the Angels do play the Orioles tonight at 6:38 Pacific time, and you can catch every pitch of the Angels' hometown broadcast with SiriusXM on the SXM app. Just search Angels. So Friday was a bummer. Saturday was even more of a bummer. And we kind of, I think, expected this because Sandoval was on the mound, and you just never know what you're going to get with Patrick Sandoval. But there's one stat that I want to share with you in this segment that helps us to see why he's struggling, and it's something he's done consistently this year and last year. We'll get to that in just a minute. But top of the first, Rendon leads the game off with an infield single. And then it happened, friends. Rendon comes out of the game with an injury, we find out later, to the hamstring. And here's why it's a bummer. He has been one of the best offensive players for us so far this year. And I know he's not your ideal, prototypical leadoff hitter. However, he has been getting on base, and he has been setting the pace for the team. I even mentioned in Friday's game, he stole a base. So Rendon is making good contact, and that good contact is dropping in, and he's doing what's necessary to get on base so that the guys behind him can knock him in. So I was bummed to see this, and I know that there's a lot of easy jokes out there to say that he's made of glass and this was expected and all of that stuff. I get it, and because of his history, people can throw arrows at that. I actually was really bummed to see this happen. I was really bummed. And I appreciated what Rendon said afterwards. He said, I'm mad, frustrated, whatever adjective you want to use. I'm frustrated. And I get it. I mean, the guy did dig himself into a hole last year and has dug himself into a hole by not being on the field. And then this year, before the season started, with some of the comments about what his priorities are, we've talked about it here on the show. But he was really playing well and playing some pretty good defense and setting the table offensively. So to see him go out is frustrating because that means that we're going to see more of Luis Rengifo, and that has not been great, unfortunately. And I like Rengifo, but it hasn't been great. We'll get to that in just a minute. So Rendon comes out, Neto pinch runs, then Trout singles. So the Angels immediately are threatening in this game. First and second, and Ward flies to center. Then Sano hits a line drive to the center fielder. It pops off the center fielder's glove. Neto scores, Trout goes to third, Sano goes to second. Then Drury grounds out to short, and Trout scores, and Sano goes to third. So I love that nickel and dime. I love that we're going to make a productive out here. And then Moniak into the inning with a ground out. But the Angels were up 2-0, and they seem to always give Sandoval a lead. And so here's an opportunity for them to give him another lead and to let him go out there and not pitch scared, but he can throw his pitches. He can be aggressive in the strike zone. Problem is, bottom of the first, everything kind of just fell apart. With one out, Rengifo fields a grounder on the line to third base and launches the ball over Shonowell's head at first. And then there was some confusion about what happened after that because the ball bounces off the fence right back to Shonowell. He throws down to second base, and they tag the runner out. And it would have been, I think that was the fourth pitch that Sandoval threw. So he would have had 2 outs with like 4 pitches. But replay showed that the ball hit a part of the dugout that is considered a dead ball part. So it was a dead ball throw. The runner got to stay at second base. And the Angels did challenge that. They reviewed it. They didn't really clarify it well when they initially said, here's what we're doing and why the runner's at second base. So good on Mark Gubiza and the broadcast, the TV broadcast, Erica Weston specifically. They made sure to bring clarity as to what was happening and why it was happening and why the runner was given second base. So Sandoval, of course, in any adversity, usually rises to the occasion, correct? Like nothing ever bothers him. He's able to overcome anything, right? I'm being sarcastic. Wrong, right? So Sandoval gives up a single, and then the Reds score. So it's 2-1. Not bad. Bad luck. Let's try to get through this inning. Follows with a walk. Then Sandoval gets a strikeout, but then he walks De La Cruz to load the bases. And then Tyler Stevenson comes up and hits a grand slam. And this is always the issue with Sandoval. He can never pitch a shutdown inning. It just seems like it's not something that's in his brain and in his ability, at least at this point. He is always given a lead and then somehow is able to give the lead back or at least have the game tied. In this instance, Sandoval gave up the lead, and it was 5-2 after the first inning, after the bottom of the first inning. So top of the third, Taylor Ward and Miguel Sano single with 2 outs, but then Drury comes up and he lines out to the shortstop. I'm sharing that with you because it was another wasted opportunity to score. And we know that there are pitching problems with the Angels, and it's why they're losing. But not scoring runs is probably a big reason why they're losing as well. And they had opportunities in this game, even with 2 outs. Bottom 4, Logan O'Hoppe has a great defensive play. It was after a leadoff walk by De La Cruz. Cruz takes second on a third disengagement from Sandoval. They can only throw over twice. On the third one, you have to be able to pick the runner off. They thought De La Cruz was going to run, and so he throws over there, and De La Cruz actually dove back. So that means he got second base. But he tries to steal third, and O'Hoppe throws him out. It was the 8th caught stealing for Logan O'Hoppe at the time. Then the next batter struck out, and it was good because Sandy gives up a double to Espinal, and then Sandoval did get a ground out to end the inning. So still 5-2. And then bottom 5 started with an error. Guess who? Luis Rengifo. That's the trend from the weekend for him. It was the second error of the game. And when this happens, it's because Sandy's on the mound. Sandoval he causes the defense to play so tight, not relaxed, and that posture is going to create an environment for errors regularly. So Patrick follows that error with a walk. Then Sandoval gives up an RBI single, makes it 6-2 Reds. Then Sandoval gets pulled. His overall line score, 4 innings, 7 runs, 7 earned, 5 walks, 6 Ks, 83 pitches, only 46 of them were strikes. I know that the defense plays terrible behind him. I get it. But he walked 5 guys. He gave 5 free passes in this game. And that's the problem. But here's the stat that I want you to pay attention to. Sandoval was 8 for 21 on first pitch strikes. That's going to be the detriment to your start every single time. And it's why he's walking 5 guys. So yeah, the defense has to pick him up. I get that. But he also has to pick up the defense. And walking as many guys as he's been walking this year and last year is just unacceptable. And I'm convinced, not because of this game, but just from the beginning of the year, that Sandoval's not the ace of this staff that he likes to think that he is. And somebody who wants to set the pace for this starting rotation, certainly not doing that, right? He's all talk and no action. And I'm willing to pick on him. I'm willing to call him out because he's the guy that we've been trying to rely on or thought we could rely on, or at least the coaching staff said we could rely on. I think Angel fans knew. Angel fans were like, seriously, Wash? He's going to start opening day, right? Now, Jose Suarez comes in and immediately walks the first batter. Again, it's just like the reincarnated Sandoval. I had a friend who texted me and said, it feels like Sandoval leaves and then clones himself in Suarez, and then Suarez comes in. Suarez K's the next batter, but then he walks De La Cruz with the bases loaded, 7-2. Then he K's Stevenson, and then he got a pop out by Espinal for the last out. Then the Angels offense finally does something. Ward walks, and then Sano hits a 2-run home run to right center field. That was really, really good news. The Angels then did get a couple of other offensive moments in there, but ultimately they weren't able to do much more than that outside of a Brandon Drury scoring on a ground out. The Angels were down 7-5 at that point, and then nothing else happened. Their offense went quiet. They had a few opportunities. Sandoval took the loss. Well-deserved loss because he was handed a 2-run lead and then immediately gave it up. Sano had 3 hits. He's looking a lot better at the plate, so I think having him in the lineup a whole lot more is a really positive thing. But the bullpen after Suarez, they held the Reds down, but quite honestly, like if you're going to go from Sandoval to Suarez, don't expect to get any kind of victory. Locked On Angels is brought to you by our friends at FanDuel. It's playoff time in the NBA and the NHL, and baseball is in full swing. And FanDuel is your place to bet on every single game. Right now, new customers get $150 in bonus bets guaranteed. That's $150 win or lose. Bet on everything from slap shots to home runs to slam dunks, all on an app that's safe, secure, and easy to use. So what are you waiting for, Angel fans? It's time to visit FanDuel.com/lockedon. Again, FanDuel.com/lockedon. When you go to that website, they're going to know that you came from our show, and that would be a really great thing and help us out as well. So make your first bet an automatic win. FanDuel.com/lockedon. FanDuel, America's #1 sportsbook. On Sunday, we got word that the Angels brought up Adrianza, which is somebody that we thought maybe would make the team, and Sano wouldn't, but obviously that Sano move was a better move. But having Adrianza on the team, I think, is going to be a great backup for this team. Perhaps maybe we can get some offense out of him. He seems to be like a wash guy. I got Jared Walsh on the mind. A wash guy. I was bummed because I know that means that somebody's going on the DL. It was Anthony Rendon that did go on the DL. Left hamstring strain. Not sure how long he's going to be injured, but it seems to be something that they're going to give some time to because of how injured his body has been the last few years. And then Robert Stevenson was transferred to the 60-day injured list. This game was as terrible as the previous 2 games. The Reds, however, they lost their starter early in this game. Frankie Montas took a 101.3-mile-an-hour comebacker off of Taylor Ward's bat, and it hit his throwing arm, and he left the game. So thinking about him, hoping that he is okay. But it was going to be Montas and Jose Soriano, kind of a pitcher's duel. But Montas leaving, it kind of gave the Angels an opportunity maybe to get to the Reds bullpen, because Soriano pitched a heck of a game in this game. He had a no-hitter heading into the 6th inning, had 70 pitches because he had a few walks, but had a no-hitter and looked really great. And then they got to the 6th inning. And that's when Rengifo happened again. He makes a costly error with 2 outs. 2 outs. Costly error. And that made everything fall apart after that. After the error, Christian Encarnacio Strand hits a 2-run double. Then the Reds add a 3rd run. And that was it for the Angels because their offense wasn't able to come through. And Soriano was having to be perfect in this game. Literally had a no-hitter going. He could not make any mistakes because the offense was not going to help him out. He allowed 3 runs. None of them were earned, by the way, over 6 innings, struck out 7, walked 3. I really like what I'm seeing from Soriano. I really like him in this starting rotation. If I'm looking at him and Chase Silseth, I'm leaning Soriano right now. But when Silseth gets healthy, I do think that there is a conversation to be had about him taking Sandoval's spot or Griffin Canning's spot. I don't know if they would eliminate and move either one of those guys, but I do think that there needs to be a conversation about that. I would rather have some consistent pitching than a consistent pitcher in like Reed Detmers and then a question in Sandoval and in Canning and then a consistent pitcher in Tyler Anderson and maybe consistency with Soriano. Right now, 2.5 of the 5 starters are going to give you a really good outing and the half is Soriano. You just don't know what you're going to get with Sandoval. You're just not sure what you're going to get with Canning. So I think I would replace one of those 2 guys, heavily consider that. If Silseth is fully healthy, heavily consider that. And what do you do with Sandoval or what do you do with Canning? I don't know. Honestly, I don't know. But I think that you need some good starting pitching. Maybe you put them in the bullpen and maybe they're your long reliever and then you can ship out Jose Soriano. I don't know. That's why I'm not the manager. But I do think that I would heavily consider pulling one of those guys out of my starting rotation. The problem for the series, guys, was that the Halos just can't hit when it matters. This game alone, they were 0-for-7 with runners in scoring position. They've had games where they've only had 3 plate appearances with runners in scoring position. This is the same narrative that we dealt with last year. This is the same issue that we have been wrestling with the last few years. So instead of just crapping all over the team, which is really easy to do, I thought it would be helpful to maybe ask some questions like, what can the Angels learn from this weekend series? Here's one thing that I think that they need to learn, and this is specifically for Wash. We need to learn what lineup will produce. We need to figure that out. And Hicks leading off is not figuring that out. That's just stupid. Because Aaron Hicks has proven that he is not a consistent bat. And I know that he was out of the game the last 2 games, which I thought was brilliant. And I know it's a Sunday game and it was early, and so it might have just been a relief moment. But then you put him at the leadoff spot? Bro, that was a dumb decision. Anywhere near the leadoff spot, anywhere near the lineup right now, I don't think is a good idea. You've got Moniak. You've got Joe Adell. I know I've picked on Adell specifically, but let's give that guy some at-bats. Let's see what we have in this guy. If we're going to deal with the mistakes, let's deal with the mistakes and allow him to really grow as a baseball player. I also think that they need to extend the lineup. Taking Ohapi out of a game because he needs a day off and having Theis play catcher is a wise decision. Ohapi should DH then. Ohapi's bat needs to be in that lineup because this lineup needs to be extended. And then Rengifo's hitting is not bad. He's getting hits and some key hits over the weekend, but his defense is awful. And so I think you have to heavily consider what you're going to do with this guy. And I think they put him at second because that seems to be one of his better positions. Johnny probably has better stats on that than I do, but if I can recall, I think second base was a better position for him than anywhere else. But he made errors all over the field this weekend, and it was costly errors. And so maybe he needs to DH. If you want his bat in the lineup, maybe that's where you have him in the lineup right now, because obviously he's struggling with confidence on the field. I did see a great tweet that said, can the play-by-play guys stop telling us how much Rengifo is working on trying to be better? Because it's not showing up on the field. Also, this team just needs to adjust and pivot and reevaluate. That needs to be the philosophy, at least for the next month. Wash can't get stuck with, this is my lineup. He needs to find a lineup that's consistent. And then I know that there's a lot of conversation about, hey, let's get rid of that guy, DFA that guy, send that guy away. Friends, the replacements are going to be as green as the starters we have right now. So getting rid of everybody and casting them off because they're just terrible is probably not the best idea. It's why they're keeping Suarez, honestly. Young pitcher, cheap, lefty, has a lot of potential. He goes somewhere else, I guarantee you, he becomes a pretty good asset for that team. But you can't trade him because you're probably not going to get much for him. And if you DFA him, he's going to go somewhere else, and then you just lose out on that. Same thing with Sandoval. And I know it's painful. It's like being pecked to death by a duck. I get it. However, you let these guys go, another team's going to swoop them up and maybe cause them to figure it out. So it really is a lose-lose for the Halos. And when it comes to the young guys, they just need time. Shonowell's starting to hit a bit more. He was going to. He's a good hitter, right? Neto needs to figure out the offensive side of things. But I think the best time and the best place for these guys are to be in the majors and not in the minor leagues. I think that they need to try to prove themselves in the majors, because if they go to AAA, they're probably going to crush it. They're probably going to kill it. And I think that that's going to be an anomaly. I think that that's going to be a mystery, because I think in the majors, they need to figure it out there rather than in AAA. Everybody hits in AAA and even in AA, right? Here's why everything's so frustrating for me. We were told the Angels want to compete, but then they fielded this team. These young dudes, go figure it out. But that wasn't the message. The message was, we want to win. We want to compete. Man, if they started with, hey, we're going to go with the young dudes and have them figure it out, then 9-13 at this point in the season, after playing some really difficult teams in the Reds and the Red Sox and the Rays and the O's, I'm not too upset about that, because these young guys are trying to figure some things out. But they said they want to win, and I think that that's the problem. So I think we got to go back to what we talked about a few weeks ago on this show. This is the team. And so if this is the team, then we're going to look at these young guys trying to go out and grow and learn, right? That's at least my philosophy moving forward. Thanks for making Locked On Angels your first listen of the day. Angels play the Orioles at 6:38 Pacific time, and you can catch every pitch of the Angels' hometown broadcast with SiriusXM on the SXM app. Just search Angels, and you can follow us on Twitter at Locked On Angels, and you can connect with us on Twitter and Instagram at Super Halo Bros. And coming up tomorrow on Locked On Angels, Wash said that today the coaching staff is going to talk with the starters and ask them, hey, why aren't you throwing first pitch strikes? Here's my question, and we're going to talk about this tomorrow on Locked On Angels. So how do they respond to that? Like, what answer is good? What answer is helpful? I would love to have that discussion with you, and hopefully my brother John tomorrow on Locked On Angels. Thank you for being here with us. Again, hoping Johnny can be back. Dude's really struggling, so be thinking about him. We appreciate you being here with us, and join us tomorrow for more Locked On Angels.